सबको बुला दें.
Sir, it's indeed it's very gratifying that 78 honorable members have spoken on this budget-related discussion. I'm very grateful.
प्लीज बैठे सीट पे. प्लीज बैठे सीट पे. नो.
I'm very grateful, sir, that members have chosen to get into the details of the budget. Sir, actually, this budget has come at a time of immense uncertainties, and the change in the global macroeconomic environment makes it challenging. So, if there are challenges which have actually made the budget preparation with a lot more uncertainties, I have to at least put in front of the August House that there are issues which are of global concern which also have an impact on our own budget making. There is a continuation of global conflict in the Middle East. Russia-Ukraine war continues. Stagnation in global GDP and sticky inflation in the emerging markets are all vitiating the atmosphere in the entire developing economies. Actually, what is happening is where we have
अभी बैठे हैं.
ideally
आप बैठे हैं.
a situation
प्लीज सीट पे बैठे.
which should encourage free trade, we are seeing more restriction. Where we very strongly vouch for globalization, we see a lot more fragmentation. Where we need fiscal prudence, we are seeing rising debt. Where we are seeing market forces which should actually play to make sure economies are going to be absolutely free and fair in its practices, we are seeing many restrictive industrial policies. We are also seeing that where multilateral forums should be playing a greater role, we are seeing bilateral partnerships and regional forums coming into play. So the world scenario in the last 10 years has actually turned almost 180 degrees, and as a result of which the challenges for any country in making their budget is far more complicated now rather than ever before. Now, as far as the first advanced estimates from NSO have come in, India's economy is expected to grow by 6.4% in real terms and by 9.7% in nominal terms. So during the current financial year, this is the picture which we want to present before you. The inflation trends, particularly food inflation, appears to be moderating. Sir, the union budget for 25-26 has sought to address these immediate challenges facing the domestic economy in the global context. It also rolls out futuristic path for transforming India into Vikasit Bharat. So our main goals in this budget, our main goals in this budget are to accelerate our growth, secure inclusive development, invigorate private sector investments, and uplift household sentiments. So, with a focus on Garib, youth, Annadata, and Nari, the budget likes to reveal new schemes and reforms in the following broad sectors: promotion of agriculture, MSMEs, investments and exports as growth engines, and building rural prosperity and resilience. We also want to have employment-led development, spurring domestic consumption and boosting manufacturing in India, including export promotion. continuing public capital expenditure, sir, and rekindling the animal spirits in the private sector to step up investments. And most importantly, investing in people, investing in economy, and investing for innovation. These are actually the union budget. These are actually the points on which union budget is focusing, so that we balance the national development priorities with fiscal imperatives. So, some of the budgetary outlays I want to highlight here, sir, so that it covers most of the concerns expressed by many of the members. The budget, first thing before I even utter the outlays for each of the schemes, I want to highlight one concept, if you want to say, effective capital expenditure. What is effective capital expenditure, sir, and why do we need to? I'm sure very many members of Parliament will fully be aware of it, but for the records, I'd like to describe it for a minute. Effective capital expenditure includes core capital outlays and the grants in aid for creation of capital assets. Though the grants in aid for creation of capital assets, sir, is accounted in our budget, is accounted as revenue expenditure, they go for creating capital assets in the states. So we include them when we talk about effective capital expenditure. In the budget of this year, 25-26, the effective capital expenditure is projected at 15.48 lakh crores as against 13.18 lakh crores in the RE of 24-25. So the effective capital expenditure in BE 25-26, sir, is about 4.3% of our GDP. That is only 0.1% of GDP lower than the fiscal deficit of this year, which is 4.4. This year meaning 25-26, which is 4.4% of the GDP. So the effective capital expenditure is 4.3% of GDP. Fiscal deficit, 4.4% of GDP. What does it indicate? It indicates that government is using almost the entire borrowed resources for financing effective capital expenditure. So the borrowings are not going for revenue expenditure or committed expenditure or any of those kinds. It's going only for creating capital assets. So in effect, government intends to use about 99% of borrowed resources to finance effective capital expenditure in the upcoming 25-26 year. I'll explain it, Professor, please. I've just begun, right? The sectoral outlays in the year 25-26 include agriculture and allied activities, which get 1.71 lakh crores, rural development, which gets 2.67 lakh crores, urban development and transport, 6.45 lakh crores, health and education, 2.27 lakh crores, defense, which excludes defense pension, 4.92 lakh crores. So I just want to highlight the fact, sir, that money is not being denied to any of the capital expenditure accounts, because I heard occasionally this argument being put forward saying, has the paradigm shifted from capital expenditure because that gives a greater multiplier effect to giving people, the taxpayers, some money in their hands for boosting consumption? No, these data from the current budget, which is before us, shows that capital expenditure outlays have not come down at all. On the contrary, they've gone up. So in this, most importantly, across all schemes, I want to highlight how transfers to the states, that is for the year 25-26, will be 25.01 lakh crores. Transfers to the states across all schemes. And I just want to go back to listing out how much after COVID the capital expenditure is increasing. At the same time, including tax devolution, finance commission grants and funds for centrally sponsored schemes, 50-year interest-free that we give for the states, all put together, the transfer of resources to the states is growing by the year. 2020-21, sir, 13.44 lakh crores, which is an increase from the previous year, that is 2019-20, where it was 13.19 crores. 21-22, it rose to 13.40 lakh crores. It was 4,000 slightly less because of COVID-related issues, although we targeted a higher number. But in 22-23, it was 15.56 lakh crores, which is 2.16 lakh crores more than the previous years. And that is the year when we brought in the 50-year interest-free loans for states. Interest-free 50-year loans. 23-24, 17.98 lakh crores, which is again 2.42 lakhs crore more from the previous year. 24-25, 22.91 lakh crores, 4.93 lakh crores more. And this year, the budget which is before us, 25.01 lakh crores, which is 2.1 lakh crores more than the previous year. So the amounts going to the states have not come down at all. Sir, I will seek your indulgence, sir. I want to highlight the thought and the philosophy behind our government's budget-making processes, and also how in the last 5-6 years we have set clearly some practices which are, I would think, very important from the point of view of fiscal management. So allow me to just go through some of the points. It's been a conscious policy choice because it's part of our governance priorities, its commitment to fiscal discipline. So India's development story actually presents a stark tale of two opposite approach to budget making and also for fiscal prudence. So global financial crisis of 2008, once in a century 2020 COVID pandemic. But what happened after 2008 led us to become a fragile five country, whereas what is now happening is that you see we continue to remain the fastest growing economy. I want to highlight some of the very critical steps that we have taken in the fiscal prudence approach and also in budget making. So under this government, sir, India transited from the league of fragile five to become one of the top 5 economies of the world. 2021, sir, we had the devastating pandemic. Union budgeting reveals recurrent themes of transparency. Since that year, you will find our themes which are recurring are transparency in the budget making and also credibility of budget making, reforms to catalyze growth, targeted social security, and use of technology for obtaining value for public money. I'll just give 2 examples or sometime even 1 example for each year. 2020-21, sir, we took a giant step of bringing on board the FCI off-budget borrowing of 1.2 lakh crores. Food Corporation of India had continuously maintained off-budget borrowings. That year we took a major step of bringing all the off-budget borrowings of FCI, which totaled to 1.2 lakh crores onto the budget. So that enabled better public understanding and discourse on government debt and also brought in a sense of credibility to the budget documentation itself. That year, another step, sir, we have also partnered with the states to deepen the multiplier effect on capital spending by providing them with the 50-year interest-free loan. From an allocation of 12,000 crore in 2021, it has now in the current budget reached 1.50 lakh crores. So it is not just us believing in multiplier effect, by spending on capital asset building, but we have partnered with the states, and states are really actually speedily coming up with a lot of proposals, which is very, very good, and we are able to give them that kind of money to support their proposals. 21-22, sir, the year after that, again 2 steps which I want to highlight. Mahua, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, off-budget borrowing was also taken on board. We brought on record the off-budget borrowing of urban housing of 33,000 crores on the books of government by prepaying it. By prepaying it, sir. So we bought it on books and we prepaid it, and that's a major initiative that we've taken to make sure the budget's transparency and nothing outside of the budget will be done. That was the second major step. The first year it was FCI, the second year it is Mahua's. That year, again, just-in-time release and transparency in flow of funds to the states, the single nodal agency model was introduced, so taxpayer money goes to the states just in time for them to use the money, and there is no difficulty in that kind of a quick disbursal of resources. That's the second major step for 21-22. 22-23, sir, debt consolidation of agencies for better fiscal planning on borrowings. Professor was very worried about the borrowing, the debt and everything else. This is one of the points which I want Professor to consider as to why consistently between 2021 we are taking measures to reduce debt, at the same time make public money go for productive asset building activities. We commenced financing of capital outlay of railways and highways from the union budget that time, 22-23. This allowed for debt consolidation, particularly railways debt consolidation began happening from that year of these agencies and helped lower cost of borrowing. So as borrowing by government is cheaper than borrowing by agencies, so efficient use of money, there also we have shown that this kind of a step can actually better utilize taxpayers' money. 23-24, sir, one big step, recognizing the taxpayer by easing tax rates. The new tax regime was made the default tax regime, sir, with new slab structure, with reduced tax rates, and also rebate limit was raised until 7.27 lakhs rupees monthly earning, annual earning, with marginal relief also given, which until 7.27 lakhs, where no tax was payable at all. This year, of course, it has gone to 12 lakhs. So the fifth point I want to say is 2024-25, sir, we empowered the ministries with a proposal which was suggested by the PAC, which was very actively looked into by the Public Accounts Committee. And then we consulted the CAG, and then we brought in a revision of new service and new instruments of service limits. This is the 4th time since independence. A major step of this kind has been brought in with substantially enhanced financial delegation to improve operational efficiency in ministries. Otherwise, for small amounts, they had to keep coming for, permission seeking and so on. That has been cleared. Ministries are more empowered now, and therefore decisions and dispersal of money happens quickly. This year, proactive disclosures, realistic estimation, and ensuring greater predictability are the steps that we have taken. I draw the attention of honorable members to the statement in 4AA, the expenditure profile. Many members would have seen it. I still draw their attention to this particular thing, which outlines the SNA balances with states in select schemes. It's an important thing I want to draw the attention of honorable members. This brings to the fore, sir, for the implementation challenges of states, the need for action to remedy at the state level. What I want to highlight here is not only the center, but also the states will have to look at debt consolidation and also rationalizing their debt balances. And therefore, we have outlined a debt consolidation pathway for the union government till March 2031. And this would give some kind of guidance to the markets with greater predictability also. So that is an important step I want to highlight, sir, that in the last 5 years, you see certain underlining currents in the budget preparation, contents of the budget also being transparent, and therefore speaks strongly for the budget being a very reliable document. It reinforces the sanctity and also the credibility of the budget process itself. So I thought it's important to draw the attention of the honorable members. So now I move to issues which have been raised by honorable members. I broadly grouped them, and therefore, instead of going by member, issues raised by 3 or 4 members have been grouped together, and I speak in response to their issues. Sir, there was this concern on rising unemployment, especially among youth. Several members, I've got a list of about 11 of them who've spoken on it. I want to highlight the fact that according to the 23-24 annual periodic labor force survey, labor force participation rate has increased from 49.8% in 2017-18 to 60% in 23-24, reflecting a rise of about 10.3 percentage points. Worker population ratio, sir, has increased from 46.8% in 2017 to 17-18 to 58.2% in 23-24, reflecting a rise of 11.4 percentage points. Unemployment rate has declined from 6% 2017-18 to 3.2% in 23-24. Sir, the Rozgar Mela, which Honorable Prime Minister hands over appointment letters, over 9.25 lakh appointment letters have been issued for central government jobs in 14 editions, which have been held till date from October 22. So the concerns about high inflation, especially food inflation. Inflation management, sir, actually receives the highest priority of this government. Overall, retail inflation is within the notified tolerance band of 2.6%, 2 to 6%, sir. And there are very many parameters which we keep monitoring so that affordable rates, food materials are distributed to people. I've said this before, I'll repeat some of them again. I just want to highlight the fact that food inflation, which was affected because of adverse weather conditions or supply chain disruptions, have all been attended to. We are still continuing to do it. The water levels in reservoirs are also being monitored. It has improved so that water adequacy for irrigation for rabi crop production is ensured. As of January 23rd, the reservoir level was 66.1% of the current live storage capacity. As per RBI, sir, the latest meeting of the MPC that they held on 7th February, CPI inflation for 25-26 is projected lower at 4.2%. Just 1 or 2 highlights here, sir. It's important for us to understand that double-digit headline inflation over 10% seen during the UPA regime is not the case now. It is a thing of past. I want that to be clear. NDA 99-2004 food inflation was only 2.2%. UPA 1 2004 to 2009 food prices soared to 6.5%, creating pressure on household budgets. UPA 2 2009 to 14 food inflation reached a staggering 11%, causing severe hardship for the public. NDA 2014 to 2024, food inflation was brought down to 5.3%, indicating a robust focus on supply chain improvements and agricultural reforms. So fuel inflation under UPA 2 was 8.9% compared to NDA 2014 to 24, which is at 4.4%, highlighting better management of global price volatility under NDA. Sir, I'm coming to that, sir. LPG cylinders. Sir, LPG cylinders, sir. Before April 2014, nearly 45% of Indian households did not have access to clean cooking fuels. In contrast, LPG coverage under NDA has reached near saturation. Total domestic active LPG customers have more than doubled from 14.52 crores in April 2014 to 32.89 crores as of December 2024. After a targeted subsidy of 300 rupees a cylinder for PM Ujjwala Yojana consumers, the Government of India is providing 14.2 kg LPG cylinders at an effective price of 503 rupees per cylinder in Delhi, which is available for more than 10.33 crore Ujjwala beneficiaries across the country. So, under the PM Ujjwala, sir, the refill rate, about which I think one or two members mentioned, that is the per capita consumption, is 4.4 cylinders in a year. So about this, oh, don't you see it in the ground? Prices are going up and so on. The measures that Government of India have taken are very important, and even in this budget, I have taken steps to say we should have better productivity in agriculture. We should also have vegetables and fruits grown so that the supply side problems can be better administered. PM Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana, Developing Agricultural Districts program, is a very important one where 100 low productivity agricultural districts are being focused, and we are going to build those districts like the way Honorable PM gave attention for aspirational districts, for social welfare indicators. So shall we do on agricultural productivity in these 100 districts where the productivity now is very low. Then Atmanirbharta and pulses, comprehensive program for vegetables and fruits, national mission on high-yielding seeds. These are steps which we are doing in this budget. We have made an effort. Other than that, sir, Bharat Dal brand products and distribution of onions. Bharat Chana Dal, actually in this year, where only 3 quarters have gone, the phase 2, 76.3 thousand tons have already been sold. Total quantity which we want to reach is 13.08 lakh tons. Bharat Atta, sir, 88,000 tons have already been sold, and 16.08 lakh tons is what we want to target, so that affordable atta, affordable chana dal can reach common people. Bharat Rice, similarly, 45,000 tons have already been distributed. 15.03 lakh tons will be distributed. Bharat Chana whole, 7,553 tons have been already sold. Moong dal, 6,637,000 tons have already been sold. And onion for Rabi 2024, 85,524 tons are already sold at affordable prices. That is 35 rupees per kg onion has been sold, and people are benefiting by these steps. Sir, I want to come to the third point which people have raised, depreciation of the Indian rupee, on which several honorable members have spoken. I want to respond to that, sir. various domestic and global factors influence the exchange rate of Indian rupee, such as the movement of dollar index, trend in capital flow, level of interest rates, movement in crude prices, current account deficits, etc. So the currency volatility across major countries is really extensive, sir. You get information on that. The US dollar index rose 6.5% during October 24 to January 25. आ रही हूँ सर, उसमें भी आ रही हूँ. हाँ आ रही हूँ. Major Asian currencies such as South Korean won, Indonesian rupiah, Malaysian ringgit depreciated by 8.1%, 6.4% and 5.9% respectively in this period. G10 currencies, sir, also depreciated during this period by more than 5.5%. So for instance, Japanese yen depreciated by 7.0%, British pound 6.6% and 5.8% is the euro. So this is even acknowledged. It might be helpful to quote this, sir, by the former RBI Governor Sri Raghuram Rajan, who even participated in the Bharat Jodo Yatra. Raghuram Rajan, sir, former RBI Governor, on 15th January 2025, this year January, said, and I quote, yes, I quote it. We'll quote all of them. No worries. Yes. I'll quote all of them in the context. Now this is the context in which I want to quote it. Sir, have the patience to listen. You can always question me. You questioned almost for 3 hours, 3 days. I'm coming back to give my reply. Should have the patience and endurance to listen, please. Raghuram Rajan, sir, has commented, and I quote, thank you. The fixation, yes, thank you very much. The fixation, of course, is always with the rupee-dollar exchange rate. I'm quoting, sir. The fixation, of course, always is with the rupee-dollar exchange rate. And reality is, dollar has been strengthening against many currencies. If you look at euro versus dollar could buy 91 cents in the euro at the beginning of last year, and now it buys 98. So there's been about a 6% or 7% appreciation in the euro. That's about what has happened to the rupee. From about 83 to 86 change, maybe even a little less than what has happened to the euro. So it's really a dollar issue, unquote. So the dollar, I really quote, I continue, it means what it says. It means what it says. If they refuse to understand it, I can't help it. Every member seems to understand. They don't want to understand. Sir, quote again. Listen, madam. The dollar is strengthening partly because of the thought that the new administration, with applied tariffs, the deficit may go down. The trade deficit for the US, that will strengthen the dollar. There's also some potential safe haven buying at this point into dollar assets. So given all that, I wouldn't be overly worried, unquote. So he says about the Indian rupees VIX, and he is not worried. Whereas our people here more worried about rupee depreciating. When I said the dollar is appreciating and the rupee is remaining stable, they said, oh, what? This is no explanation. Now when Raghuram Rajan says it, they don't want to hear it. If you look at the real, he continues. Raghuram Rajan continues. If you look at the real effective exchange rate of the rupee, yes, listen to this, please. If you look at the real effective exchange rate of the rupee, it has not depreciated that much. So that's what it means. He summarized it in one sentence. If you look at the real effective exchange rate of the rupee, it has not depreciated that much. Some nominal depreciation might be useful for exports, unquote. Sir, No, we won't accept it because it doesn't suit us. Sir, decline in household savings, household debt increased was also a point which at least 3-4 members have spoken. I want to say some facts for them. Household savings consists of net financial plus physical savings, increased by a compound average growth rate of 8.9% CAGR from 2019-20 to 22-23. There is a reallocation of savings by households to real assets. In the post-COVID period, sir, household real estate investments have increased considerably. The share of savings in physical assets in gross household savings.
That is India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman responding to the debate on Budget 2025, claiming many achievements under the government which has led to great economic progress in the country, everything from unemployment to inflation. We have my colleague Karthik Malhotra now joining us live from the newsroom for more. Karthik, that is a comprehensive response to all the questions that were raised about Budget 2025, and for that matter, not just Budget 2025, the general financial direction of the country.
You're right, Krishna. In fact, the debate is still ongoing, and interesting conversations there and inputs coming from Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. I think the latest conversation that I was just hearing in before you started talking to me was about the depreciating rupee versus the appreciating dollar debate, and Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman there quoting none other than former Governor of RBI Raghuram Rajan, saying that he's in concurrence with the theory that it is actually the dollar which is appreciating while the rupee continues to be stable, and the Indian currency has not declined at the same clip as many other currencies globally, not just in emerging markets, but even the more developed countries like the UK pound, for example. So that was one part of the debate where I think there's a lot of action given. Rupee is hitting record lows day after day. It appreciated a little bit today, but nothing to really take the steam off from this hot debate on where the rupee is headed from here. But apart from that, you're right. I think a plethora of issues discussed in Parliament, debated out in Parliament and replied to today by Finance Minister. And among these, I think the key points which you highlighted, unemployment, I think there's been a lot of rancor on unemployment. Is India employing as many people that it needs to and it should? So the Finance Minister has quoted the periodic labour force survey and said that that there is a great deal of employment being generated in the country. And the converse of that, which is unemployment numbers for the financial year 2023-24 was down to just about 3.2% or so. Well, mysteriously, the Finance Minister did not give us the unemployment numbers for the ongoing financial year. But then, of course, we have estimates and revised estimates, and it's only after the financial year ends that we will know where the unemployment figure for this particular financial year is headed. I want to draw your attention, Krishna, and for our viewers, to something very interesting which Finance Minister gave us a sort of calculation, a formula for, and this is something that she referred to as the effective capital expenditure, and that has been allocated for the next financial year in Budget 2025-26 at about 15.5 lakh crore rupees. Now, the calculation that Finance Minister has given is that at about 15.48 lakh crore rupees, the capex, the government's capex, is going to be about 4.3% of India's GDP. Now, she's trying to put this 4.3% in some context, and she's saying that India's total fiscal deficit for the upcoming financial year will be at 4.4%. So you have capex investments at 4.3% of GDP, whereas the fiscal deficit, which is the difference between the country's expenditure and revenue, hence a deficit, you're expending more than you're earning, is at 4.4% of the GDP. So she's given this sort of interesting nomenclature to it, which she's calling the effective capital expenditure, and her logic being that the entire borrowing that the central government is doing is actually not going towards revenue generation, but towards building capital, which is going to be there for the long run. So there's capital expenditure where all the borrowing is going, not all, about 99% of the borrowing that the government incurs is actually going to go towards capital expenditure and not really fill the government's coffers when it comes to expending money on either receiving or expending money on day-to-day operations, as well as schemes which are sponsored by the central government. Another interesting number that Finance Minister threw was the devolution to states and the share that states get as part of the central government's revenue, which gets shared across all states. She's saying that that figure is going to be about 25 lakh crore rupees for the upcoming financial year. Now, this number again has been contextualized by Finance Minister. She's saying it has grown consecutively from 2020-21 financial year all the way from about 13 lakh crore rupees or so 5 years ago to about 25 lakh crore rupees. That is going to be the devolution. That is going to be what the states receive for sponsoring the central government schemes. So that figure doubling in about 5 years. So by any arithmetic logic, I think, there's a great deal of sharing happening between what the centre is earning and what the centre is likely to share with the states. Apart from that, I think the usual, the usual suspects anytime the finance minister is in the house, questions of inflation are thrown at her, and she pretty much breezed through them, and she said that inflation is well within the RBI's 2% to 6% band, so no really worrying signs on that front. She compared it with the double-digit inflation, which is not far from reality, which did run for a few years during the UPA government's regime, but she did say that days of double-digit 10% and higher inflation are well behind us, and India is pretty comfortable in that 2% to 6% inflation rate. However, we are still far from the RBI's real comfort rate of 4%. And that is something which would be giving the RBI and the government hopefully some sleepless nights. And I say hopefully with a lot of caution here, Krishna, that inflation is still high. We may or may not accept it, and we may have comparisons with what inflation numbers were 10 years, 15 years ago. But the fact of the matter is that India wants inflation to come down. Inflation is pinching every household because this inflation is coming on account of essentials like food items. So when food prices are high, it is something that bites everybody. And the estimate for 4.2% inflation for the next year also happens to be above the RBI's limit, Krishna.
Inflation continues to be a major concern despite answering everything. Thank you, Karthik Malhotra, for being with us and breaking down Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman's response in the Lok Sabha. And with that, we take a very short breather. Lots more coming up on the other side.
Your promise is IGI certified. Your ambition is IGI certified. 14-step grading process, 50 years of trust. IGI Trust Certified.
India spends $75 billion on foreign cargo vessels.
$75 billion per annum. That's a lot of money.
Imagine a situation where 95% of our cargo is coming on ships which are not owned by us. If we are still not prepared, if someone were to say that we are not going to give you ships, then we'll be stuck. So the entire nation's economy is at risk.
We are very clear that shipping is also strategic, because without that you can't really be the third largest economy in the world.
This and more. Streaming on News9 plus news is now content. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
What is to the nines? In literal terms, it's perfection. But to us, it's not just a phrase, it's an attitude. One that starts at your desk and sends a statement to the world. To the nines is about taking charge. It's a way of life where every seam, every fold, is crafted with excellence. It's timeless elegance and uncompromising quality made for the corner office. It's the ideas that inspire redefining order and elevating the tabletop. To the nines, for the leaders of today and the visionaries of tomorrow.
You're watching News9. I am Krishna Kumar. Straight to the big story that's breaking at this hour. 2 Indian Army soldiers have been killed and 3 have been injured in an